Romeo Razzi CPA, influencer write-offs. So you've decided to become an influencer and you've started to make some money. You're either making affiliate income or YouTube income. Some people are paying you for sponsorships. Maybe even you're invited to some kind of conferences and they want to pay you to speak. You're making all this money now, but guess what? The IRS is going to want their cut. And I know that because I used to work at the IRS. Remember, now you are working for yourself, which means you are your own boss, which also means you pay taxes as you go. When you had a boss and you're working for someone else, you were a wagee. And when you're a wagee, your boss collects your taxes and sends it into the IRS for you. But when you're an influencer and you're making money on your own, you pay as you go. And the only way to lower your taxes is by getting the most amount of write-offs as you can. So I'm going to go over the 15 most important write-offs that you need to remember as an influencer. And at the very end, I'm going to tell you which one of these write-offs the IRS scrutinizes or looks at the most close. Number one, website costs. You remember these things? Business cards. We don't use them anymore. When was the last time you handed out a business card? Your website now is your business card. Everything associated with your website and your branding to be an influencer, you can write off. That means the cost of your domain, your hosting expense, your email setup cost. If you're using Squarespace or DigitalOcean or something to host it like GoDaddy, all those expenses regarding your website, you pay for certain plugins on WordPress that you need a subscription to. All those things with your website are deductible. So don't miss your write-off for your website costs. Number two, anything that has to do with you taking the shot, you can write off. Whether or not you're using your laptop to edit the videos, you're buying special cameras with special lenses because you want the aperture to be a certain way, you have certain lighting rigs that you need, you've got to buy these little things like this so that way you can get the mic to work. All those things that have to do with your camera and video shooting are write-off. Now be careful with laptops because the IRS is going to know that you use that laptop sometimes for video editing and sometimes for personal. So when it comes to laptops, make sure that you take a percentage because we know that you use your laptop to surf the web for personal things. Number three, wardrobe and costume costs. Now, this is kind of controversial because in general, clothing is not deductible for your taxes. This shirt, I can't deduct. My shoes, I can't deduct. Why? Because I could wear that out and about other places. However, if I have to buy uniforms with branded logos, those are deductible. And if your influencing work has to do specifically with your costume and wardrobe, that's deductible. Let me give you an example. You're an influencer or a Twitch streamer or an Instagram model where 90% of everything you do and you get your followers and your money and everything that's going on into your influencing videos have to do with cosplay. Well, you design all those clothing yourself. You're going and buying the fabric and you're having it stitched and you're having it put together, and the only place you're using it is for your influencing. That is deductible. But once again, your shoes at Target are not deductible. Number four, props, furniture, staging equipment for your shot. Let me give you an example. You decide you're going to do a split screen where you're going to pretend to be somebody else. And for that, you're going to get little props to make yourself look older, or you're going to make yourself look a different way. Those things are going to be deductible. Also, any kind of staging or furniture equipment that you need for your shot will also be deductible. I am currently creating a YouTube studio and the ceilings in there are 14 feet tall. So in order for there not to be an echo in that room, I have to buy these sound absorbed panels. Those are deductible because the only use is for that studio. So things like sound absorbed panels, green screens, backdrops, things that you need in the background that are used for your video shot and staging props, those are deductible. Number five, products you buy for product reviews on your YouTube channel. If you're doing a YouTube channel and your channel is completely tailored around doing product reviews, those products you purchase are deductible. But be careful, because if you end up keeping the product and using it for personal use, it will not be fully deductible. Let me give you guys an example. Imagine you're doing a product review on smartwatches and you decide that you want to compare all the different Apple smartwatches and all the different Samsung smartwatches. So you end up buying 5 or 6 different smartwatches to do the comparison. You're not keeping all these watches. You're not using all these watches. You're using them for one purpose and one purpose only. You're using them for a product review. And because you're using them for a product review and you're not using them personally, you can write that off. However, if you end up using one of those watches for personal purposes, you won't be able to deduct 100% of it. Also, if you get the products for free, there's no write-off because you didn't spend anything. Also, if you return the products and get a refund, there's no write-off because you got your money back. So if you spend the money on products and you're doing a product review and you're not using those products for personal purposes, you can write them off. Number 6, different types of software and apps you use for your content creation are write-offs. And there's a lot of them. So I'm going to go ahead and read a bunch of them off for you. Things like Adobe, you use Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. You may use Adobe Premiere. You may use Canva. All those things are write-offs. You use stock photography websites like Shutterstock or iStock Photo. Those are write-offs. You use video editing apps like Vivo.net or Evanto Elements. Those are write-offs. You use stock music websites like Epidemic Sound. That's a write-off. Also, any other types of software you're using or apps to help you with your content creation or tracking your expenses are write-offs. Don't forget to write off the apps that you use for your influencer business. Number 7, home office deduction. This is one of the most widely used and popular deductions for anyone that works out of their home. This is a very technical and complicated deduction, so I have made a completely separate YouTube video on it, but I'm going to give you the quick rundown on it so that way you can know how it works. So what you do is you take the ratio of your home office square footage to the ratio of your entire home. Whatever that ratio is, you multiply it by expenses for your home, whether it's your rent, your home insurance, your mortgage interest, your property taxes, your utilities. Once again, like I said, I have an entire video on it so you can understand the nuts and bolts of it, but don't miss this very important deduction that you can write off your home office. Number 8, cell phone and internet expenses. You can write off your phone, your monthly phone plan, and your internet. But be careful because the IRS knows that you use your cell phone and your internet for more than just your business as an influencer. They're never going to buy the story that 100% of your phone and 100% of your internet is for business. You surf the web, you use it to go find places to eat. So make sure you only use a reasonable ratio. A reasonable ratio to me is around 50%. You may be able to justify a little bit more, but you need to talk to your CPA or your tax return preparer about what a reasonable amount of your cell phone and internet deduction is a write-off. Number 9, any type of courses or classes you take that are germane to your business and what you are doing as an influencer. I'll give you an example. Last week, I signed up for Skillshare. And on Skillshare, I am taking an online course on video editing because I am editing a bunch of my own video. I needed that course to learn how to use Adobe Premiere. So that is a write-off because the only reason I'm taking that online course is because I need it for my business doing YouTube video. Also, any type of conferences or trade shows that you go to that have to do with your business, you can write those off too. There is a popular event that happens here in Las Vegas every few years called Grow with Video Live. And that conference is to help people learn more about what to do with YouTube. And that conference is a write-off for you and your YouTube or influencer business. Number 10, one of the most popular write-off. You can write off meals, but you have to be careful because there's a bunch of rules regarding meals. First of all, you have to be going out with somebody else to write off the meal. It can't be just you're gonna go buy food for yourself at Five Guys. You have to go out with someone else. Secondly, there has to be a business purpose, and you have to be discussing business during the meal. Thirdly, you will only be able to write off 50% of whatever the cost is. And the reason for that is if I take my videographer out for lunch and we're discussing business and how videos get edited or filmed, I'm allowed to deduct the portion I pay for his meal, but I'm not allowed to deduct the portion for me. So that's why the meals deduction is only 50%. The other thing you have to keep in mind, if the meal is over $75, the IRS wants you to keep a log and a copy of the receipt that says what the meal was, who you were with, and what business purpose you were discussing. But as long as you're within those guidelines, you can deduct your meals as a write-off. Number 11, subcontractor costs and legal and professional fees. If you are paying people to help you with your graphic design, your video editing, your filming, maybe you're paying a lawyer to help you with some other kind of professional fee. You have an assistant that you're paying to be on the set of whatever it is you're filming. All those subcontractor costs are deductible. It doesn't matter if you're paying them as a W-2 employee or you're paying them as a 1099 contractor, or some of these people you might be paying on Fiverr or Upwork to do your video editing. Those are all deductions. Number 12, travel, hotel, and lodging. Now, this is one that can get some scrutiny. If you end up traveling somewhere to do a video that you can't do anywhere else, that travel expense is deductible. But be careful. Don't try to deduct your kids' flights or your wife's flights. Let me give you an example. You decide that you're doing a YouTube channel regarding automobiles. And every single year in Vegas, there's a giant auto convention called SEMA. And you come to Vegas for the SEMA convention and you do a lot of influencing. So you buy a plane ticket, you get a hotel, you come to Vegas. Your primary purpose to be in Vegas and your travel and hotel and lodging is for your influencing and for the SEMA convention. However, if your wife and kids tag along, their flights are not going to be deductible because they're not influencers. They're just coming to keep you company on the downtime. So be careful. Don't abuse this deduction. You can write it off if you're within the right guidelines and you are using it legitimately for legitimate travel expenses. Number 13, advertising, marketing, promos, prizes, all the stuff in that realm are write-offs. If you're paying for Google ads or Facebook ads, maybe you're going on Twitter and Instagram and you're paying to have certain posts you do promoted more. Those costs are write-offs. If you have giveaways or you give away prizes, if they're really, really popular YouTubers like Mr. Beast and Pat Wall that give away tons of things regarding their YouTube videos and channels, all those giveaways and prizes are write-offs. Number 14, accounting, bookkeeping, CFO fractional services, tax return prep fees, all of those things are deductible. As you start making more and more money in your influencer business, you're going to need to hire people to be good with the numbers. Why? Because most people who are influencers are great at creating content, but they're not that great with spreadsheets. Any of those expenses are a write-off. And number 15, any expenses that have to do with you setting up your LLC or corporation in your state are a write-off. If you want to set up your LLC in the state of Nevada, you have to pay a licensing fee of $425 the first year and $350 every additional year. Those fees are deductible. Also, if you hire a firm or a company like LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer to help you create those things, you can write those off. Even if you have to hire a lawyer because you're going to go and do some type of joint venture with another influencer, and you guys decide that you want a contract. You pay a lawyer a couple $1,000s to set up that LLC, you can write that off. Now I've given you guys 15 really helpful, important tax write-off for influence. But as I told you at the beginning, there are certain ones that the IRS scrutinizes the most. Those are the home office deduction, your travel deduction, your meals deduction, your cell phone deduction. Those are scrutinized. So make sure you discuss with your tax return preparer or CPA how much of those expenses are personal and how much are business related. I hope you really enjoyed this video. As I mentioned, I have a separate video for your home office deduction, and I have a link to that in the comments. Also, if you have an S corporation, there's a very special way in which you can take your home office deduction, where you have to use an accountable plan. I've made a separate video for that. Go ahead and you'll see a link to that in the comments. If there are any type of deductions for influencers that I've missed, please let me know.